depression isn't an aesthetic, and I like talked about that in my last video about how like there's no joy in suffering, or there's no benefit. I'm forgetting exactly the word that I used, but as someone who used to heavily romanticize sadness or depression and use it as like an aesthetic, especially as a teenager, and I feel like that's kind of like what teenagers do. I mean, not to say they all do that, but, and it's not that I didn't have cause to be depressed or anything like that, and I genuinely did feel that way. It was just like I was romanticizing it at the same time, which was like keeping me stuck in the cycle, and like that was the big part of the problem, was that I didn't want to break free from being depressed and romanticizing it. Like I found a sort of like sense of comfort in it, and I did talk about this in my last video. What I wanted to add on to that about hitting rock bottom, and how that is kind of like what makes people turn around. I feel like when people hit rock bottom, they have a choice to make, and they either continue on being at rock bottom and they continue living miserably, or they decide to completely turn their whole life around, even if it's like mostly mentally, and changing their whole thought process, and how you look at life. Like I feel like everybody has a point in their life, and it might not even be a conscious decision that you're like, oh, I'm gonna choose to do this, or I'm gonna choose to do that. It just kind of happens. I do think it's a choice ultimately, but on the topic of like the whole depression being an aesthetic or whatever, when you like hit rock bottom and you're like, you realize misery is just that, like it's just misery. And like I feel like social media and like especially like TikTok and whatever romanticizes depression and sadness and all of that, and you get stuck in that way, in that loop, in that cycle, and you don't want to get out. And I remember like I wanted my misery to be something beautiful, and I wanted to make something beautiful out of it. Like you hear about artists and stuff, they like Picasso in his blue period, Picasso when he was really depressed, he had like the blue period of like art, that pieces that he created, and making something beautiful out of his misery, basically. A lot of artists do that, and I wanted to do that too, but like I literally couldn't. I literally didn't even want to make art. When you don't have any passion anymore, like creativity, you know that's not good, and you gotta change something. But anyways, I wanted to make something beautiful out of it, but I couldn't, so I had to literally change myself. Like I really realized misery is just ugly, and that's just the truth. I feel like misery is depicted as romantic in media, or maybe that's just how I naively perceived it, but I don't think that I'm alone in that. Like I don't know, with creating art and stuff, I think there's like a understanding. It's not the right word that I'm looking for, but that it has to be created out of a place of like sadness or whatever, and that is just not true. I like shifted my focus from making art, like that it had to be out of a place of sadness or whatever, like, and I was like, no, I'm gonna challenge myself to shift my focus to positivity and to good things about life. And for some reason I found that more challenging to do. For some reason it feels like easier to find things to be sad about or whatever. But at the same time, there's so much like good, and there's so much to be fine, to be happy about. I think it's easy to take things for granted that we're used to having. I've been thinking about, like, I don't know, like having like a body or whatever, and being a person, human, and like I've always worried this, like, what if I'm taking this for granted and then one day like I don't have it anymore, and then I was like, damn, I took that for granted, and you can't go back. Well, I don't think you can go back in the same body and the same life and all that. It won't be exactly the same. Anyway, don't know how that works, but I don't know. With trying to change, though, I'll say I feel like I almost became a bit toxically positive, or toxic positivity, like in the way that I didn't want to like allow myself to like feel all of the feelings that humans feel, which is not just good feelings and good thoughts, it's also negative stuff sometimes, because that's just what it is to be a human. You have to have both, you know, good and bad emotions so you can appreciate the good even more. If you constantly feel happy all the time, you're not going to appreciate it. And I guess I kind of wasn't really understanding that. I had just like been stuck in a cycle for so long of like feeling most like negative emotions, and like my attempt in trying to get out of that, I was going to the other extreme, which is constantly trying to be positive. And although I do think it's good to be positive, I think it's good to honor your feelings as well. And I personally struggle to find the balance of honoring like my emotions as they come, like negative emotions like anger and sadness and jealousy and whatever, and to honor them, but to not be like consumed by them or like ruminating on them or like all of that. You have to figure out, I guess, where the line is. And I think that like honoring your emotions is so important, because you have to get that out of your system, because if you don't, then you're just gonna be pushing it down, and eventually it'll build up, or you'll just not be able to appreciate the good things of being happy and all the positive emotions and positive things about life, because you're, like I was saying, you can't constantly be happy or positive. It's not what we're meant to, how we're meant to lead our lives. It's just not how it is. To honor your emotions that are gonna like come up, like your negative emotions that are just naturally gonna come up, and just like allow yourself to feel them, and just then feel them, let them pass, move on. Another good way is like journaling. If you're feeling like sad or angry or upset about something, like journaling. I've always journaled like my entire life, like since I was like in 3rd grade, consistently, literally consistently. I think I had like 34 journals or something like that. I can actually look, because I'm holding one right now. 48. I'm on my 48th journal, because I've been writing consistently. Actually, I'm writing since I was 9, so over half my life. And yeah, that's like such a great way to let stuff out. Also, doing art, it's also a really good way of letting things out and channeling that energy into something. And I was just talking about, like, you don't have to like be only sad to like make art, but it is a really good outlet for when you are sad. And I have something in my notes that I wrote a while ago that was like, don't make yourself sad to create art, use art to ease your sadness, or something like that. And I think that that's very true. Like, you don't have to make yourself sad to create something, but if you're already like in a space where you're upset or sad or whatever, then using like art as an outlet to kind of transfer those emotions into something like physical and like let them go in a way. When I mean art, like, I think that's a very like versatile thing. Like, that applies to many things. Also, working out when you're like upset can be extremely helpful, I found, especially if like something happens that is like upsetting or makes you feel angry. Like, going and working out is like extremely good way of letting that out. Wait, there was something I wanted to add, and I remembered, and then I forgot, and I was like, no, this was really important. With like going through that era of misery and just being miserably depressed and whatever, like, I needed to go through that so that I had the motivation to better myself and to change myself, and to want to and to want to choose and like seek out positivity, because before I didn't want to seek it out. Like, before, just realizing misery is just what it is, like misery, and there isn't anything romantic about it. Before that, when I would just kind of romanticize depression and kind of just like thought negatively and stuff. Anyway, I wasn't motivated to change my thinking and to like seek out positivity and like all of this stuff. Like, I wasn't motivated to do a lot of things, and I needed that. I needed to like go through things. I needed to reach like rock bottom so that I could be who I am today. I think that we have to go through things, or I think we have to lose ourselves in order to become the best version of ourselves. I do believe that. I wouldn't be who I am today if I had not been who I was then and like gone through all of that and felt so miserable, whatever. I would not be who I am today. I wouldn't have the motivation to have done things that I wanted to do, like go to college and stuff. And so if something like hard has happened to you and you're like in a hard patch right now, like, don't think that it's over, or that things are never gonna get better, or that don't think that the person that you are right now, that you're gonna be that person for the rest of your life, because you can change it anytime. You just have to decide that I'm gonna change. I literally think that one day I just woke up and I was like, I'm tired of being miserable, and then literally it was like one day I just woke up and was like, I'm gonna change the way that I think and the way that I perceive life and like go about life. Like, and don't think that you're like too old to change, because most likely, first of all, there's no age you have to be to change, but second of all, a lot of people who are really young think that they're really old when you're not. Like, when I was just a couple years younger, like 18, 19, I thought that I was extremely old and lived my life. I'd had my cake, but like, I didn't realize how young I was. I'm still like not even that much older than that. Like, I'm literally 21. Anyway, sometimes we have to go through hard things, yeah, to become the best version of ourselves. And I was saying we have to lose ourselves to like re-find ourselves. And I definitely did lose myself, like, completely, and I had to like completely refine myself again. I literally didn't recognize myself anymore, and now I feel like more sure of myself than I've ever felt, like, I think in my entire life. And it's weird because it's like, when I look back, like, I don't know, I feel like this part of me like was always there, like it was always a part of me, and it was just like waiting to surface, or I don't know. But I think that hard things happen to people. We have to learn lessons in this life. My light died, and also my cat is on me, so I can't get up. I want to add this point. You may not like see it right now. Why something is oh my god, he is so cute. You may not see, I can't. Okay, you may not see it right now, like why something hard is going on or why you are in such like a low place, but looking back, like in the future, when you look back on it, you may finally understand, like, oh, I see why I had to go through that for this reason or that reason, or to teach me this lesson. You'll look back and you will understand why and what lessons you learn and what you've taken from that and how you can use that going forward. It's important not to be resentful because you became a better person because of it, and you need to learn a lesson from it. And so, like, what is there to be resentful about? You know, it's like you're winning, you're becoming the best version of yourself. Like, what is there to be resentful about? Why are you holding on to resentment, like maybe towards like a person who did you dirty or whatever? It's like, that's why it's so important to forgive people, because now you can move on and take your lessons and move on. Anyway, the reason I was inspired to make this video is because I was going through one of my old sketchbooks and I was reading some of my old like poetry writings, whatever, from a time in my life where like I was very depressed. I hate looking back on old stuff because I don't like to like bring up old feelings and stuff, but I don't know, sometimes it just happens. Yeah, it inspired me to make this video because I wanted to kind of like turn. That is all that I have to say on this topic. So yeah, thank you for watching.